Hi everyone and welcome to another fragrance video. This time we're going to be doing the top 10 fragrances in my opinion from the 2000s. You may have seen my recent video where I looked at what I felt were the top 10 fragrances from the 90s, and we're really just following on with that. Just quick pointer, all of these fragrances we're going to look here are designer fragrances. There are no niche in this collection. That's really for the reason that when I was growing up in the 2000s and buying fragrances at that time, I was really just buying designer fragrances, which I still do to this day because they're still very good. And hopefully these ones are ones that stood the test of time in the last decade. There are going to be no honourable mentions, so we're just going to get straight into it with number 10, and it's one that doesn't get a lot of love in the fragrance community. I think mainly because it's very cheap, and it's this one here. It's Paul Smith Extreme. Now, this came out in 2003. It's a very sort of fresh, but also kind of spicy fragrance at the same time. Opens up with bergamot and lemon, but it has nutmeg and geranium in there. It's very sort of classy, understated fragrance. Like I say, it doesn't get a lot of love in the fragrance community. I think maybe because it's a little bit misleading with the title, because it's called Extreme, when it's not extreme at all. You'd expect it to be some, sillage monster called that, and this is really quite soft, quite grown up sort of fragrance, and it's very cheap now. When it came out, it was quite expensive at the time, back in 2003, but now, just showing you those Paul Smith stripes. Now it's going to be picked up for next to nothing. I bought this in TK Maxx for 15 quid, which is a 50 ml, and 100 mls, also inexpensive. So coming on to number 9, and in this case we're going to go to probably one of the best office fragrances you can get. It is Versace Pohon. Very clean, almost kind of soapy fragrance, very safe. Smells absolutely gorgeous. If it has one downfall, it's longevity. After about 2 hours, this has really faded away. But, it is a very safe fragrance. Carry an atomizer in your pocket, spray it around the office, no one's going to complain. Apply liberally. So coming on to number 8. Number 8 on this case is going to be controversial because a lot of people will think this should be higher, mainly because of the hype surrounding it. But it is Mont Blanc Individual. This came out in 2003. It's also been around a long time. Very well hyped because of the sort of comments it gets from ladies, allegedly. I can't say I've had a great deal of comments from ladies when I've worn this compared to a lot of other fragrances, but it is, pleasant. It smells a lot like Youp Homme, but it doesn't have that overpowering element. It's more downstated, sort of more sophisticated than Youp Homme, but you can definitely smell the sort of influence in there. It smells a lot like Original Santal by Creed as well. Again, pretty versatile fragrance and also pretty cheap. Classic that stood the test of time. Maybe not as good as some people on the internet will have you believe, but certainly it is still very good. So if we come on now to number 7. Number 7 is a discontinued fragrance, and again it's from Paul Smith, and it's called Story. Now again it's another one. It doesn't get a lot of love. It came out in 2006. It was discontinued around 2011, 2012, I believe. Again, very nice, very sort of daytime, summery type fragrance. Very sort of green. Smells a lot like a very cheap fragrance you can buy now, which is Signature from Next. You're not going to go wrong with this kind of fragrance. It does sell for quite a bit of money online now because it's discontinued. It was quite cheap when it was out originally, like many Paul Smith fragrances are. But certainly one I enjoy. Certainly takes me back 10 years when I bought it originally in 2006 when I was doing a course, and I got talked into it in a department store. And it's one I certainly enjoy. Got a small bottle of that which I bought more recently, which again I paid, like I say, through the nose slightly for it, but certainly brings back a few memories. So if we come on to the next one in our list, which is number 6. I'm losing count of them here. Number 6, I am going to go for a grown-up nighttime fragrance, Armani Code. Going out fragrance, sort of sophisticated, not really a clubbing scent, but certainly a nighttime fragrance. The story that was the idea behind it was to sort of wear when you dress up with a tuxedo or a suit. Has sort of lemon as one of the main notes, but really it kind of smells kind of licoricey, weirdly, like a sweet licorice. Certainly not one you go wrong with. Not particularly cheap. No Armani fragrances are particularly cheap, but certainly a very good one. Has been reformulated, not as good as it used to be, but you know, you certainly will enjoy it if you like that kind of fragrance. So we come on to number 5, and again, it's going to be slightly controversial because some people will probably have this as their number 1. It is, of course, Yves Saint Laurent's La Nuit de l'Homme. Now this is, as the name gives away, it's nuit, meaning night. It's a nighttime fragrance. It's a flanker to the original YSL L'Homme. It appears in all sorts of YouTube videos, most complimented, all that kind of things. You know, it is a very kind of sexy date fragrance, but has been reformulated again. Doesn't pack the punch, but still brilliant. The reason why it's so low in this list at number 5 though, and not 1 or 2, is because I have something which I believe is better. And I'll come on to that in a second, because we're going to move on to number 4. And number 4 is a fragrance, really, that kind of broke the mould when it came out back in 2005. It's Dior Homme. Some people call it a sort of lipstick fragrance. It kind of smells like people say a makeup bag. I don't really get that. To me, it's kind of spicy, kind of mature. That's a feminine element, but it's kind of a seductive, fragrance. I've worn it to the office, but it's not really for that. Although there is a sport and a Eau version that's probably more suited to that setting. You've probably noticed with this one as well, it has got the black stem. The original from the 2000s had a silver stem, had a bit more power. This has been watered down with a reformulation, but it still packs a punch, still very good. If you don't want to buy this, you want to get an alternative, well, Valentino Umo smells very similar. And a very cheap one that's similar to this is number 9 by Zara, although that lacks the longevity of this one. So, number 3, and this is the one that I mentioned that's in the same sort of realm as La Nuit, but slightly better. And it is F Black from Salvador Ferragamo. Very spicy, sort of grown up, nighttime fragrance. This is kind of like a La Nuit de l'Homme's sort of rougher, tougher younger brother. Came out the year after La Nuit, came out in 2009, La Nuit came out in 2008. It opens up a bit like Chanel Allure Homme. The dry down is very much La Nuit-esque, they're not exactly the same. This is a bit spicier. It's a bit like a rough around the edges, it's not quite as smooth as La Nuit, but I prefer it. And the main advantage it has of La Nuit is the longevity is much greater. La Nuit, the reformulation, couple of hours, it's gone. This you will smell for hours on end. So, number 2, and we're going to have to move these a little bit to make some space. And number 2 is going to be another one that's slightly, it's controversial, but also not, weirdly, because it's a really obvious one, and it is Paco Rabanne's 1 Million. Now, this is probably, without question, the most successful fragrance, certainly in the UK, in the past decade. Pretty much everybody's worn this at some point. You know, it's a club banger. It is kind of juvenile in an extent. It's a bit bubblegum. It does smell absolutely brilliant though. The reason why it doesn't get a lot of love anymore, I say anymore because it used to, is because it's so overdone. Everybody's worn it. It's been everywhere. It's been worn by the undesirables, and it's got a kind of a bad reputation in the way that Dupe Homme and Le Male and things like that did previously. But let's not take anything away from it. The reason why it's so successful is because it smells good, and that's why it's made this list at number 2. I don't personally wear this anymore. It's a 200 ml bottle I've had for 6 years. I wouldn't wear it now, but I've still got it, and I can still remember its power, and I can still understand why it was so popular. So that's number 2. Now, number 1. Number 1, I will be honest, I only have a very small version of it. And it's this here, which is Armani Attitude. Now the reason why I only have a small version of it is because it's been discontinued, and it's very, very difficult to get hold of now, unless you are going to pay astronomical prices. This is an unbelievable fragrance, absolutely unbelievable. If you can get a version of this without spending an absolute fortune, then I'd suggest you buy it straight away. Somebody at Armani needs sacking for stopping this, or at L'Oreal, because L'Oreal make Armani fragrances, if you're not aware. It's absolutely fantastic. I don't really know what I can say about this fragrance, just that it is absolutely amazing. And it's one definitely to look out for if you can get it anywhere. Like I say, it's been discontinued a few years now. Prices have gone through the roof. You can get it on eBay, but you're probably talking 50 ml bottle costing, used, half used, 2-3 times, 4 times what a bottle of this would have cost originally when it was on the shelves. But I certainly think it's one you'll enjoy if you can find it. And like I say, for me, it's the number 1 from the 2000s. That's it for now. Thank you.